Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our ceremony in 5 minutes. Again, in order to preserve the dignity of this solemn ceremony, please silence all electronic devices, including those with hourly chimes. Guests in uniform, again, this is a covered ceremony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Joint National Park Service United States Navy National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony. I'm Jason Blunt, Chief of Interpretation for World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument, and I'm truly honored to serve as today's Master of Ceremonies on this historic 77th anniversary. This year's theme is Forging the Future, the unconquerable spirit of America in 1943. Just imagine, only 2 years after the attack 75 years ago, in 1943, American service members were advancing around the world unconquered. They were achieving victory against tyranny. They were building confidence, cooperation, and commitment with the Allied forces. They were forging the future. Today we pay tribute to those members of the greatest generation who rose to the challenge, beginning here in Pearl Harbor and on Oahu, in the name of freedom in order to achieve a more peaceful world. Will guests please rise as able for the arrival of the official party? The official party for today's ceremony includes Miss Jacqueline Ashwell, Superintendent, World War II, Valor in the Pacific National Monument, National Park Service. Navy Region Hawaii and Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific arriving. Indo-Pacific Command arriving. Yes, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is customary on December 7th that we observe a moment of silence at 7:55 to commemorate the beginning of the attacks on Oahu. At 7:55, the USS Michael Murphy will sound their ship's whistle to begin the moment of silence. Completing the moment of silence will be F-22 Raptors from the 199th and 19th Fighter Squadrons, known as the Hawaiian Raptors, executing a missing man flyover formation just beyond the USS Arizona Memorial and over Ford Island. In honor of all of those who lost their lives in defense of their country 77 years ago today, please remain seated as this flyover takes place. The missing man formation was first used by the United States military in 1938. While aircraft have evolved and modernized since then, the concept of paying tribute to the fallen with this aerial salute is still used at funerals and memorials today. You may see one aircraft pull away from the formation and fly high into the clouds to honor the lives lost on December 7th. This tactic of a single aircraft pulling away from the group was not part of the original missing man formation, but has come to be a routine element since the end of World War II. It represents a lost comrade departing while humanity and the mission at hand continue. The gap in the formation symbolizes our fallen comrades and demonstrates to all that we shall remember their sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please bow your heads as we observe a moment of silence to honor the events that occurred at this moment 77 years ago today. like to thank the 199th and 19th Fighter Squadron for participating in today's ceremony. Please rise as able for morning colors and the performance of our national anthem, followed by the state song of the U.S. Pacific Fleet Band. Bugler, sound attention. Color guard, parade the colors. Retire the colors.
Ready? Two. Right, face. Forward, march.
Guests, please be seated. It is customary for ships passing the USS Arizona Memorial to pay their respects by rendering honors. Approaching, you will see the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, the USS Michael Murphy, commanded by Commander Kevin Lewis, who graduated from the United States Naval Academy with the class of 2000. Today, in addition to rendering honors to the USS Arizona crew, still entombed in their watery grave, the USS Michael Murphy will also render honors to Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans who have gathered with us today. Michael Murphy, the Protector, recently returned from deployment. The USS Michael Murphy was forward deployed to the U.S. 7th Fleet Area of Operations in support of security and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. The ship is named for Lieutenant and Navy SEAL Michael P. Murphy, a New York native who was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions during Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan in 2005. Murphy was the first person to be awarded the Medal of Honor for actions in Afghanistan and the first member of the United States Navy to receive the award since the Vietnam War. USS Michael Murphy arrived at its home port here in Pearl Harbor on November 21st, 2012. Mr. Everett Highland, as a representative of all Pearl Harbor survivors, will lead us in a salute. He is escorted by his granddaughter, U.S. Navy Commander Anne-Marie Genotti. Everett was standing on the deck of the USS Pennsylvania when it took a direct hit from a 500-pound bomb. As Everett put it in his own words, "We'd gotten through the first wave of the attack okay. Unfortunately, we weren't so lucky with the second. I happened to be standing near where the bomb exploded when it hit. It knocked me through the air and I landed flat on my face." Mr. Highland suffered multiple wounds and severe burns on his hands and his face. Of his entire squad, he was the only person to survive. Later that day, Everett's brother, who was serving in the United States Marine Corps, went to the Naval Hospital looking for Everett. Once inside, he passed a terribly injured patient, and a voice cried out, "Hey, it's me!" And that's how they found each other. After 9 long months of recovery, Mr. Highland was released from the hospital and subsequently returned to sea to fight again. Everett is here today to represent all Pearl Harbor survivors. Everett, facing the USS Arizona, will now lead a salute as she passes close aboard. Carry on, Mr. Highland. We'd like to thank you, the USS Michael Murphy, and the Hawaii Air National Guard for participating in today's ceremony. In the Hawaiian culture, the religious leader or spiritual advisor is known as a kahu. Today, we are pleased to have for our invocation a Hawaii blessing offered by Kahu Kanahele, assisted by Kahu Helen O'Connor.
WWII. Kia kua kama kua maulo o kalani. Aloha kakahiakia oe. Our eternal and loving Heavenly Creator, good morning to you. On this very beautiful and sacred day, we ask your aloha and your blessings upon every single one here, more especially for the men and women and their families of all of our military branches of service. They are very, very special indeed, handpicked by you to select their future, their beginning, and their retiring years. For many are the retired here in our audience today are the great veterans of these walks through life. We ask thy sacred blessings especially upon the wives and the families of all of our military branches of services, for they are just as great as heroes as everyone else. And Heavenly Father, we come humbly before you to Mihi and ask your forgiveness if any of us have fallen short of our obligations to you. Please forgive us. The time to rise up and be a great nation continues. The time beginning again and again and again, always here in this sacred place, is to remind us of our past and to build for our future. And in order to do so, we must always beseech you to praise us, to guide us, to direct us, and to bless us. Heavenly Creator, upon all of us we ask thy sacred hand touch us all, of all faiths and all religions and of all beliefs. May we humbly ask also that you bless a very special blessing for a very wonderful gentleman in Daniel Martinez, the historian of this wonderful place that perpetuates our culture and our heritage and a reminder of who we all are. Humbly I ask these things, no kamer, no ke aupuni, a me kamana, ka ho'omani a maulo atu. Amene and amen. Mahalo.
For the past 37 years, the Japanese Religious Committee for World Federation has offered a prayer for peace on this occasion. We are honored to have them here once again as part of this year's ceremony. Reverend Sunikoyo Tanaka will offer the prayer, followed by the English translation by Ms. Mihara.
真珠湾攻撃から77年を迎える今日、日米両国間に勃発した不幸な戦争によってお亡くなりになった多くの人々の御霊に対し、謹んで哀悼の誠を捧げますとともに、関係各位のご尽力により、かくも厳粛かつ盛大に慰霊式典が挙行されますことに衷心より敬意を表する次第であります。私たち世界連邦日本宗教委員会は、それぞれ宗教者、信仰者がお互いの宗旨宗派の垣根を越えて相集い、心を一つに世界平和を祈り、その実現のために日々活動しています。今から36年前の1982年5月、本会と米国の宗教者が協力し、ニューヨークの聖ヨハネ大聖堂で日米宗教者会議が開催されました。その時の日本側代表団長が我が防府田中文清であり、私も参加しておりましたが、その木とここパールハーバーに立ち寄った私たちは粛々と頭を垂れ、慰霊の祈りを捧げました。 それは日本の宗教者として当然の務めであるという宗教者たちが共有する強い意志からであったように思われます。その時以来、我々は毎年欠かすことなくこの慰霊式典に参列させていただき、今年で37回目を数えることになりました。一昨年の2016年12月には、その長年の活動を認めていただき、当時のオバマ大統領と安倍首相により、日米両国の和解と寛容の精神を世界に発信した共同声明の場に招待いただき、歴史的な場面に立ち会うことができました。さらに今年は毎年日本の各地で開催している宗教者、信仰者が集まる大規模な大会を第40回記念として、つい先日の12月5日、海を越えて念願であったここハワイの地で開催させていただきました。日本国とアメリカ合衆国、両国の戦没者に対し、毎年慰霊の誠を捧げていると同時に、同地において、両国の宗教者、信仰者が共に集い、世界平和の祈りを捧げたことは大変意義深いものがあったと感じております。ハワイは日本とのご縁が深く、本年はハワイ日系移民150年という節目の年にも当たっております。77年前のあの時を境にして、日米両国は悲劇と苦難に見舞われました。今ここに集い、共に祈りを捧げる私たちの姿は、たとえ一度は敵味方に分かれたとしても、やがては親しい友、親睦、貧しい同胞のように、互いを思いやり、信じ合うことができるようになるのだということを改めて私たちに確信されてくれます。人類はいまだテロや紛争、貧困、環境破壊といったさまざまな困難に直面し、私たちの理想とする世界の平和とは程遠い状況にありますが、だからこそ私たちは先人から受け継いできた英知を結集し、共存共栄と相互敬愛の精神をもって、一日も早い真の世界平和と全人類の幸福実現のために、宗教者、信仰者として共に祈り、力を捧げることをここにお誓い申し上げます。
This year makes the 77th year since the attack of Pearl Harbor. We are here to honor and pay our respect to those who sacrificed their lives when our country suffered the tragedy. I am humbled and honored to stand with you in this solemn and grand memorial ceremony. We, the Japanese Religious Committee for the World Federation, have members from different religions and faiths. We vow to everything in our power to bring true peace. 36 years ago in May 1982, my late father, Tanaka Fumikyo, was the president and participated in the Japan-America Religion Conference in New York. On the way back to Japan, they stopped at Pearl Harbor to pray for peace and offer his condolences. Each year since then, we have been welcomed and honored to be here. In December 2016, we were fortunate to witness Japan's Prime Minister Abe and the former President Obama announce to the world the importance of resilience and the strength of reconciliation. Each year, we hold the National Convention of Religious Leaders and Followers at various places in Japan. 2 days ago, on December 5th, we were fortunate to have celebrated our 40th anniversary here in Hawaii. Religious leaders of Japan and U.S. all gathered in the name of world peace and prayed for those who sacrificed their lives for their countries. Hawaii and Japan have very strong ties. This year makes the 150th anniversary of the Japanese immigration to Hawaii. Although 77 years ago today, our countries face many challenges, we are able to show to the world that we are now friends who have developed mutual respect for each other. World peace seems to be very fragile these days due to threats from terrorism, poverty, and natural disasters. We are here to share the wisdom that passed from the past generation, that all human beings must learn to live in harmony. for that is the only way that will lead us to world peace. As people of faith, each one of us vow to do everything in our power to bring about true world peace and happiness.
祈りましょう。
Let us all pray together.
世界が本当に平和になり、すべての人々が幸せでありますように、この地球を一つの家として生きとし生ける者が共に生き、慈しみと愛と誠に満ちた明るい楽しい世の中になりますように。ありがとうございました。
May true world peace prevail and may all mankind find true happiness. May we all learn to live together in this planet we share, to be the bright place that is full of compassion, love, and sincerity. Thank you very much.
Today's National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day commemoration is co-hosted, as it has been since 2005, by the National Park Service and the United States Navy. Here to share an official welcome on behalf of the National Park Service is Jacqueline Ashwell, Superintendent of World War II, Valor in the Pacific National Monument.
Good morning, everyone. Aloha. Among the dignitaries we welcome today, and ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause until the end, the Honorable David Ige, Governor, State of Hawaii. The Honorable Sonny Perdue, Secretary of Agriculture. The Honorable Tulsi Gabbard, U.S. Representative for Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. Admiral Phil Davidson, Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Admiral John Aquilino, Commander, U.S. Pacific Fleet. Lieutenant General Louis Craparata, Commanding General, U.S. Marine Corps Forces, Pacific. Lieutenant General Brian Fenton, Deputy Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. The Honorable Stanley Chang, State Senator, District 9. The Honorable Kirk Caldwell, Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu. The Honorable Tatsunobu Isoda, Mayor of Nagaoka, Japan. The Honorable Bob McDermott, State Representative, District 40. Members of the Consular Corps, members of the Senior Executive Service, and all other flag and general officers, elected and appointed officials, business and community leaders, and of course, all of our World War II veterans present with us here this morning. Welcome. To paraphrase the words of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in his 1943 State of the Union address, as long as our flag flies over the capital of the United States of America, Americans will honor the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who fought our first battles of this war. Their unconquerable spirit will live forever. The first battle of that war was 77 years ago this morning. When I have the privilege of accompanying someone on their very first visit to Pearl Harbor, I ask them to stop for a moment, to go back in time with me, to imagine the harbor as it was on that day. Explosions, chaos, smoke, flames. Try to imagine that right now as I speak these words. Some of you don't have to imagine. You were here. You witnessed it firsthand. We are truly blessed to have you here with us today to help us remember. In 2001, the 60th anniversary, 17 years ago, the Honolulu Star-Advertiser ran an article entitled Fading Voices. I came across it recently, and there were a couple of quotes in it that were like a punch in the gut to me. Quotes from two people that I love, men I was honored to call friends, but only for a short while before they passed away. Herb Weatherwax's quote was, "We're dying. We're dying pretty fast now, and when we're gone, I hope you will remember that we served willingly. We fought willingly, and we died willingly." We remember you, Uncle Herb. Your unconquerable spirit will definitely live forever. The other quote in that article was from Ray Emery. Many of you know that Ray was an absolutely incredible historian and a fighter. He greeted enemy planes with a .50 caliber machine gun from the deck of the USS Honolulu in 1941. He fought in 7 invasions across the Pacific. And then over the subsequent decades, he fought to ensure that we would never forget the history of Pearl Harbor, that we would remember it accurately, that we would work to discover the identities of the Pearl Harbor unknown. Ray was a relatively young 80 years old back then when he said, "Who will carry it on when we're gone? What's going to happen in 10 years when we're all gone?" Fortunately, Uncle Herb and Ray both lasted well more than 10 more years. We lost Uncle Herb in 2016, and then Ray just this past August. What they foresaw was, unfortunately, inevitable. The voices are fading. Over Thanksgiving, we lost Ray Chavez at 106. So many veterans this year, and of course, 1 week ago today, we lost another World War II veteran, President George Bush. The voices are fading. When I learned of the president's death last week, and so many times over the last few days of commemorations this week, particularly during those moments where we recognize peace and reconciliation, I keep thinking back to the president's words on the 50th anniversary. If you've never watched that speech, go find it. Very easy to find, and I highly recommend it. And if you were here and you did watch it, it's worth a rewatch. Can't recommend it enough. His words that he held no rancor in his heart for the people of Germany and Japan. Words spoken by one World War II veteran to his peers. Those words were what was needed for some to forgive and to begin to let go. Those words helped pave the path that we walk today. President Bush will forever be a part of the history of Pearl Harbor, a history that is still being written. I close my remarks today by saying to all who gave their lives on December 7th, 1941, and to all of those we've lost in the 77 short years since that day, and of course to the veterans seated here with us today and those watching us over broadcast. To all of you, I say, please do not worry. for so long as there is a United States of America, a flag will fly over the USS Arizona Memorial, and the National Park Service and the U.S. Navy will continue to tell your story. Your unconquerable spirits will live forever. It is now my pleasure to introduce Rear Admiral Brian Forte. He is a surface warfare officer with numerous at-sea and ashore assignments. As Commander, Navy Region Hawaii, he oversees installations on Oahu and Kauai, Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, and Pacific Missile Range Barking Sands. As Commander, Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific, he provides oversight for surface ships home ported here in Hawaii, and to me, he is a very valued colleague and a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Rear Admiral Brian Forte.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I have learned in the 16 months that I've known Jacqueline, and it's a lesson I continue to learn but fail at, is never follow Jacqueline at a speech. She kills it every time, and she always gets it exactly right. No matter what I say, I can't top or equal Jacqueline. But Kelly and I appreciate your friendship, and we appreciate you and the National Park Service and all who made today possible. On behalf of our Navy team here in Hawaii, it is my distinct honor to welcome back all of our Pearl Harbor survivors and your families. We offer a warm welcome to all World War II veterans and all other military veterans, active duty and retired, as well as your families who join us here today for this very special occasion. Today's ceremony marks the midpoint of our 75th commemoration events, which began 2 years ago. Today we consider the tragedy of what happened here in 1941, but we also recognize the resilience and the grit of our nation and our veterans from 75 years ago, 1943, when we forged the future. In 1943, Pearl Harbor was most certainly an operationalized base. Here in the middle of the Pacific, our Navy focused on the needs of our fleet. Sailors at Pearl Harbor ensured that our ships, our submarines, and our planes had the repairs, the fuel, the supplies, and the logistics that we needed to fight. And we continue that legacy today, just as we did more than 75 years ago, because we must always be ready. In just under 2 years here in Pearl Harbor, we will commemorate the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. And at that time, just as we do today, we will continue to demonstrate commitment, vigilance, and readiness. The sacrifice, the lives lost here at Pearl Harbor and throughout all of World War II will always be remembered. And that memory will continue to forge a generation of peace, partnership, and prosperity for many generations. Now, today, here in Pearl Harbor, people from different nations, backgrounds, beliefs, all live and serve together as one Ohana, all for a better world. Today, we're very honored to have Admiral Phil Davidson as our keynote speaker. Admiral Davidson is a leader who is absolutely committed to vigilance and readiness. He's a stalwart defender of our nation, our allies, and the freedom that ensures international order, particularly here in the Pacific. As a surface warfare officer, he is deployed across the globe. And as ashore, he has excelled as a senior leader, recognized for his bold and dynamic style and strategic insight. Admiral Davidson leads joint U.S. military forces as Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, America's oldest and largest military combatant command, with men and women serving an area of responsibility that stretches not only across the Pacific, but to the west coast of India, from the Arctic to Antarctica. As Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, he defends and deters our adversaries. He develops friendships with allies, partners, and friends, and he delivers the readiness necessary to ensure freedom of the seas and freedom of the skies. He stands ready to defeat our adversaries if deterrence fails and the call comes. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Phil Davidson.
Good morning and aloha. Thank you, Brian, for the introduction and for your leadership and stewardship of this historic place. Thank you, Superintendent Ashwell, as well, for your marvelous remarks this morning. There are a number of distinguished guests here today, but in the interest of time, I won't try to acknowledge everyone, but I do want to take just a moment to recognize a few honored attendees. Secretary Perdue, welcome this morning. State and city leaders, Governor Ige, Mayors Caldwell and Asota, esteemed members of our consular and diplomatic corps, fellow flag and general officers, leaders of the National Park Service. Welcome and thank you for your attendance today. Most importantly, a special welcome to the greatest generation, our World War II veterans and Pearl Harbor survivors, to whom we owe an immeasurable debt for your heroic actions. And welcome to all of our veterans here today. It is truly an honor to be speaking to you today, December 7th, on these hallowed grounds. For many, the date is the reminder. For those of us that live here, serve here, I will tell you, we think of this day every day. We can never forget the heavy price paid 77 years ago. 21 vessels damaged or sunk, 170 planes destroyed, more than 2,400 dead and 1,200 wounded, soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and civilians. Despite these heavy losses, it did not break the American spirit. In fact, it charged it. We quickly prepared for the long, hard war to come. Just over a year after the attack here, in his 1943 State of the Union speech, President Franklin Roosevelt spoke of the challenges that remained, saying, "The past year was perhaps the most crucial for modern civilization. The coming year will be filled with violent conflicts, yet with high promise of better things." He went on to say, "First in the importance in the American scene has been the inspiring proof of the great qualities of our fighting men. It was these qualities, the resilience and determination, that helped shape this country's, and indeed the entire world's, future. The tide of the war started to change in 1943, with the fight to secure Guadalcanal ending in February, giving the U.S. and our allies their very first major offensive victory in the Pacific, and a stop to Japanese expansionism. In June, Japanese forces began to leave the Aleutian Islands, their last foothold in the Western Hemisphere, and the Allies began to move through the Central and Southwest Pacific. On the other side of the world, in North Africa, Rommel and his AFRICORPS was forced to retreat, and the Allies began their push through Italy, causing the Italians to drop out of the war. And meanwhile, planning began for the eventual landing of Allied forces in Western Europe. Though the tide of the war was indeed changing in 1943, the price to be paid remained steep. In November of that year, our Marines, supported by naval gunfire support and naval aviation, won the first contested amphibious landing in the Pacific on the Tarawa Atoll. Facing an entrenched and determined Japanese defense, the Marines fought valiantly over 3 days to secure that strategic airfield. The battle for Tarawa saw some of the fiercest fighting of the war to date, with nearly 6,400 Japanese, Koreans, and Americans killed in just 3 days of fighting. The heavy loss of life served as a reminder that although the Allies were making progress and shaping the future of the war, it would come at significant human cost. The unconquerable spirit of the heroes of the greatest generation enabled them to rise to the occasion. They understood the importance of what they were fighting for, and in the words of Herb Weatherwax, as mentioned earlier, they served willingly, they fought willingly, and they died willingly. Now, as Superintendent Ashwell mentioned in her remarks, we are sadly losing a number of these heroes. Among many others, we lost Ray Emery in August, and over the Thanksgiving holiday just 2 short weeks ago, at 106 years young, we lost Ray Chavez. And just a week ago today, we lost another member of the greatest generation with the passing of President George Herbert Walker Bush. As you all saw during the eulogies over the past week, President Bush embodied that unconquerable spirit. And as a Navy pilot and World War II veteran, he shared a special bond with Pearl Harbor survivors. He understood the significance of our men and women's sacrifice and spoke here at the 50th commemoration saying, "The friends I lost, that all of us lost, upheld a great and noble cause. Because of their sacrifice, the world now lives in greater freedom and peace than ever before." We cannot forget the sacrifices made by these brave men and women, the Herb Weatherwaxes, the Ray Chavez, or the George Herbert Walker Bushes. For to forget them is to dishonor the actions taken to defend our inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is why ceremonies like today's and organizations like the National Park Service are so important, to educate and inspire future generations to work toward a better future. And since World War II, the United States has continued to play an active role in ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific. Free, both in terms of security, free from coercion by other nations, but free in terms of our values and political systems as well. And open in the belief that all nations should enjoy unfettered access to the seas and airways, open trade, upon which all of our nations and economies depend on. This concept is not necessarily new. In many ways, it is similar to the international rules-based order born from the post-World War II era. But we must remind ourselves, Americans fought and bled for these lands, not to conquer them, but to liberate them. Then together, with allies and partners, we helped rebuild Japan. We pushed back aggression in South Korea. And we advanced the security architecture of the post-war era in a way that has led to this region's collective prosperity. The United States continues to work alongside our allies and partners towards this shared vision. But challenges remain. There are nations and forces in the region today opposed to the idea of a free and open region. I promise you, the United States will continue to work alongside our allies and partners towards that vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. We will remain opposed to those who desire to lead a region that is closed and authoritarian. We cannot fail, and we will not fail. May God bless our Pearl Harbor survivors, our World War II veterans, and the greatest generation. May God bless those who follow in their wake, the men and women of our armed forces today every one of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen, past, present, future, who will step forward to defend this nation. May God bless the beautiful state of Hawaii, and may God bless the United States of America, which will forever be the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Davidson. This morning we will place wreaths to honor the territory of Hawaii, Army, United States Marine Corps, the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The wreaths will be presented by active duty and National Guard service members, along with National Park Service Rangers. The wreaths you're about to see presented are an expression of our gratitude and a symbol of our unending appreciation of service and sacrifice. Today we honor heroes, military and civilian, who lost their lives here on December 7th, 1941. This formation represents our past and present. It honors those who fought in the name of freedom and continue to serve our country with honor, courage, and commitment. Today, these wreaths also represent hope that our future generations may never forget the many sacrifices that make freedom possible. The territory of Hawaii. On that fateful morning, 49 civilians lost their lives as a result of the attack. As a base for all of the military services, the then territory of Hawaii and its citizens played a major role in one of history's greatest salvage and repair efforts, quickly restoring most of the damaged ships and expediting their return to the fleet. Hawaii citizens opened their homes and businesses to servicemen stationed in the islands and to those returning from war patrols. Today, the state of Hawaii remains a strategic and welcoming home port for our military, continuing to offer aloha for all. Representing the territory of Hawaii is Captain Ronnie Rathod of the Hawaiian National Guard and Park Ranger Joseph Borgia. Will all of our civilian survivors and witnesses of December 7th, 1941, please stand as able. Civilian survivors and witnesses, please be seated. The United States Army. While many history books tend to focus on the Pearl Harbor attack, the brave members of the United States Army fought diligently to defend their posts on December 7th, 1941. From Schofield Barracks to Bellows Airfield, the U.S. Army had and continues to have a large presence on Oahu. Representing the United States Army is Sergeant Philin Hammond and Park Ranger and Army veteran Richard Bettinghouse. Will all of our Army veterans, both past and present, please stand as able. Army veterans, please be seated. The United States Marine Corps. Many may not realize until visiting the USS Arizona Memorial that a United States Marine Corps detachment made up part of each battleship's crew. A total of 109 Marines lost their lives on December 7th. 105 perished aboard ships in Pearl Harbor, and 4 were killed in action at the Eva Mooring Mast Field. Representing the United States Marine Corps is Sergeant Aguilera and Park Ranger and Marine veteran Phil Lingenfelter. Will all of our Marine Corps veterans, both past and present, please stand as able. Marine Corps veterans, both past and present, please stand, or correction, please have a seat. The United States Navy, 1,999 sailors lost their lives in the December 7th attacks on Pearl Harbor and Naval Air Station Kaneohe. Many sailors met their final resting place in the waters directly behind me while defending their ships and helping their shipmates escape the burning waters. Many more assisted in rescue and recovery efforts in the days and weeks that followed. Representing the United States Navy is Petty Officer First Class Frank Mulvaney and Park Ranger and Navy veteran Alexander Warwick. Will all of our Navy veterans, both past and present, please stand as able. Will all of our Navy veterans please be seated? The United States Air Force. Though not yet a service in 1941, the United States Air Force was formerly referred to as our Army Air Forces and here on Oahu as the Hawaiian Air Force. On December 7th, Lieutenants Ken Taylor and George Welch scrambled their aircraft parked at Haleiwa Field and took off to brave the skies against incredible odds. Representing the United States Air Force is Airman First Class Chun and Park Ranger and Air Force veteran Jason Okrasa. Will all of our Air Force veterans, both past and present, please stand as able. Thank you, Air Force veterans. Please be seated. The United States Coast Guard. At the time of the attack, United States Coast Guard vessels in Hawaii were all stationed in Honolulu. At 6:45, the patrol craft Tiger intercepted a dispatch from USS Ward that claimed destruction of a submarine. Later, Tiger itself came under enemy fire as it participated in the defense of Oahu. Representing the United States Coast Guard is Petty Officer First Class William Stevenson and Elizabeth Lenz, spouse of Park Ranger and Coast Guard veteran Casey Scott. Will all of our Coast Guard veterans, both past and present, please stand as able. Thank you, Coast Guard veterans. Please be seated. To our wreath presenters, thank you. At this time, would all Pearl Harbor survivors, World War II veterans, and all those who lived through the attack on December 7th, 1941, please stand as able to be recognized so that the rest of us can honor you. On December 7th, 1941, and the years that follow, you superbly executed your duties at your posts and weathered the storm of war. It is because of you and others like you that we enjoy freedom and liberty in this great country. Will everyone please stand and join me as we express our gratitude and appreciation. A grateful nation applauds you today. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. A vintage 1940s Globe Swift aircraft will soon fly overhead. With its sleek lines and retractable landing gear, this aircraft was the economical civilian counterpart to the fighter aircraft that pilots flew during World War II. It shares many common features with the U.S. Army Air Force's P-40 fighter. We'd like to thank Commander Bruce Mays, United States Coast Guard retired, and the Pacific Warbirds for providing today's vintage aircraft tribute. Please remain standing as able for the Benediction, Marine Corps Rifle Salute, and Echo Taps played by the Pacific Fleet Band. Captain Brian Haley, Chaplain, Navy Region Hawaii and Naval Service Group Middle Pacific will now offer the Benediction.
Aloha kakahiaka, good morning. E puli kako, let us pray. Almighty Heavenly Father, as we prepare to leave this sacred place, hallowed by the sacrifice of our fathers 77 years ago today, may we continue to remember and ponder the immense cost of freedom. Keep us ever humble, remembering our tendency to slumber into ingratitude. Remind us, with an overwhelming sense of unworthiness, that we should benefit from such an extravagant gift of freedom, purchased at so great a price. Bless these waters surrounding the holy resting place of our fathers with your presence and peace. May the fragrance of our tribute keep us in remembrance of their lives and service. And may the memorials here, shrines of their honor and courage, long endure as a testimony to future generations of the ugliness of war and a reminder that freedom is never free. May our remembrance guard us against complacency, so that we may stand always ready to defend the cause of freedom and peace. And may our gratitude teach us to live with our neighbors in the abundance of peace and charity you intended for all men everywhere. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Amen. Stand by for rifle salute. Hand salute. Ready, 2. Side boys, post. On behalf of the National Park Service and the United States Navy, thank you for attending today's special observance of the 77th anniversary of the attack on Oahu, Forging the Future, and remembering the sacrifices made by those who served here on December 7th, 1941. To those who are watching our ceremony through our online broadcast, we also extend a sincere aloha. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party and our honored guests. Following the departure of the official party, we invite our Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans to participate in the Walk of Honor, right here to my right.
Side boys, left, right, face.
Indo-Pacific Command departing. Navy Region Hawaii and Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific departing. Ms. Jacqueline Ashwell, Superintendent, World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument, National Park Service, departing. Service members from all branches will now salute survivors and World War II veterans as they participate in the Walk of Honor tribute. If I could have all our active duty service members interested in participating, please line the walkway to my right. It'll proceed uphill toward the entrance to the Visitor Center. Please take a few moments to line this walkway so we can honor our veterans. Veterans, please stand by. World War II veterans. We ask the general audience to please remain in your seats for a few moments as our most honored guests, Pearl Harbor survivors, World War II veterans, and all of those who lived through the attack on December 7th, 1941, depart. Would all Pearl Harbor survivors, both military and civilian, as well as other World War II veterans and their families and caregivers, please make your way to the front of the stage and towards the honor cordon at this time as able. Active duty service members in uniform, please welcome our World War II veterans at this time. Thank you to all our guests for reserving the Walk of Honor for our World War II veterans, other survivors, and their families. Please enjoy patriotic songs performed by the United States Pacific Fleet Band as you depart today. Tugboats from Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam will be in the harbor conducting a water tribute. This officially concludes our ceremony. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.